Hello, this is Blaire Stanislao with the Happy Lion Center. Welcome to our podcast, Mystical and Infamous, where we have playful and easy conversations about anything mystical, getting to the heart of all things strange and weird. Join us in a bit of magical tomfoolery, spreading the alchemy of love and light. And now, we invite you to enjoy the show.
So when I was born preemie, so a couple months premature, and there was a nurse at the hospital because my mom was so young, she already had a kid. Like my mom was very, very young, teen mom. And there was a nurse that decided that because my mom already had a kid, she didn't need another one. So she was writing down that I was being fed and wasn't letting my mom feed me. And I was in an incubator, so I was getting like half the amount of food that I was. So she was trying to kill me, essentially. There was a big news article on it. And because of this, once they actually like caught on, because my mom was like, when can I feed my baby? The doctor was like, you have been, it's been documented. And she's like, no, I haven't been. And so they caught on, and there was this whole big thing. And then the doctor told them that I wouldn't make the night. And well, here I am. I made the night.
So obviously she got to feed you, right?
Well, after that, she had to use formula and stuff because she dried up, because you have to.
Oh, it was that long. Oh my goodness.
Like they were shocked that I was like only a pound. So they were shocked that I survived.
You were really preemie. How far preemie were you?
I was born in July, like July 20th. And I was supposed to be born, like, I think the end of September.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, so it's a miracle. Beyond a miracle. Okay.
and what's funny is they actually say, like, when you, like, if I would have died, like, I had a girl, I was doing another podcast, like I was doing a summit, and when I was presenting, I was doing timelines, and one of the girls had said something. She's like, you've been shifting timelines since way before you even realized it. And I was like, you know what? I guarantee you, I shifted timelines when I was, instead of dying, I chose to live.
Yeah.
I was like, that's so it's just, I was supposed to be here, but they say that you're usually those that are like that, like they come very gifted, or those that die and come back, they're very gifted. And so I actually, growing up, like from the time I was 2 years old, I used to like black out and go into trances. Like my siblings have horror stories of this because I didn't know I was channeling. I didn't know that's what it was. And my dad told me he used to use like the Christ consciousness, like the name of Christ, to bring me back, because from 2 years old, blacking out. And I remember having instances where all of a sudden I'd be pulled and I'd be gone. And I remember holding a knife, and my sister was so scared of me and just standing there, or I'd sleepwalk. Like, it was just chaotic growing up. I traumatized my family.
Well, that's a role for you.
And
so I'm just curious, the blackouts that you had, what happened? Like what happened from the perspective of your family?
They had no idea what was going on, and they wish I would have given up this path. And they accept it now because of the path that I've chosen. Like it's so in the light. I understand. I've dove into myself, but they were just very afraid, and they didn't know what was going on. I was just trancing. But what was happening is I would go into a trance, and because I'm a trance channeler, which is where I leave my body, like I back off, and a being comes in and they speak through me.
So like you were possessed, kind of.
Yeah, but it was channeling, except it was with these negative beings. And I was always like, I was like the ghost magnet too. Like I would I remember like waking up with a man looking over me in this dark hat and this runner, like she was a girl. She had blonde hair, pink jumpsuit, and she was just staring down at me. They just died and they found me.
Okay. And this was in your childhood? This was in your childhood? And so how did you figure out I assume you help them transition. Is that what you do?
I didn't know it at the time. I just was like, honestly, I thought I was evil as a kid. Because I could like, I remember this time I got so scared. I was with a friend and we were telling ghost stories, and I have a lot of those. And I got so scared, the lights in my room started flickering, and I thought it was just the power, like the whole house was doing it. No, she walked out, she went down to the kitchen. It wasn't doing it until I walked into the room, and things would move. Like I was very psychic.
Yeah. So
So
you scared your friends too.
yeah,
Wow.
didn't really have many of those.
We laugh about that, but it's true. It's difficult. It's very difficult.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So basically you were thrown into this world
Yeah.
and on many levels, but you're helping people to understand it's not quite so scary. So I guess my first question is, how did you go from those scary experiences and even thinking that you were experiencing negative energies to this more light way of approaching it, meaning love driven is what I would say.
When I was dating my daughter's biological father, I had the same experience where I blacked out and he told me that I hit him. And I was just talking to a family that was down in his basement. Like there was this mom and her kids.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I don't remember it. And he told me that I hit him because he was bothering me. And I do not remember. And then my cousin was there at the time and he called my dad to come because they were so freaked out of me. They were
Yeah.
absolutely petrified. And my dad came and he brought me back. He knew how. He's done it a million
Okay.
times.
Yeah.
And I shut my gifts off because I was so scared. And he told me because he didn't know how to help me. He'd only had negative experiences by that point.
Mm-hmm.
So he was you can't do this anymore. You have to shut it off. Like, so I just asked God to I was like, okay, I'm done. And what was funny, it was for a year after I did that, it was like my relationship, actually 2 years, with my relationship with this man, it was bad. Like it was like if anything could go wrong, it went wrong because by me closing it off, I went against myself, against my soul. So when I had my daughter, we were broken up by that point. And I was back living in my hometown with my dad, and I have a very big family. Like my dad's number 12, and we do have a very spiritual background.
Mm-hmm.
And so my aunts, they were helping me with my daughter, and they're like, "Hey, Shantana, like go get a Reiki session from this person. Like she's phenomenal." And then this lady became my mentor. So I started actually learning how to do Reiki. I went and got, because she was in Saskatchewan and I was in Alberta. So I found somebody else to attune me,
Mm-hmm.
but she would answer all my questions. She helped me through the mediumship. She didn't really get into the channeling, but she helped me learn to work with the energy a bit. And then Spirit guided me to my next mentor while I was doing Reiki and who taught channeling. And it was so funny because it landed in my lap. Like it was totally spirit led. She was doing this freebie, this event, and all you had to do was comment and like the video and watch each day and comment on the 3 days. And I did because I didn't even know she had that going on. I just seen it and I was like, I'm so drawn to you. Like there's something about you. Like I feel so drawn to you. And all of a sudden she's like, I get this email of you won this scholarship to this academy. And I was like, this is fake. I remember calling my mentor and be like, okay, I swear this is a scam. Like, there's no way. And no, it wasn't a scam. So I actually got to learn what I was doing. So because it already was a channeler, it came so natural in so many different ways. And it's just evolved since.
And so I assume you're saying that when you were learning through this program that you learned several different methods. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Yeah. So, and it was so did it feel like a memory? Did it feel like you were like, oh yeah, I've been doing this for a long time? Or
Yes.
okay.
Oh, yeah. Because I was like, I remember messaging her and being like, I swear this is what I've been doing. Like, is that what I've been doing? And she never did respond.
Mm,
But then once I got into the program, I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been doing.
yeah. Yeah. Well, so then that helped you to not be so scared, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was like, after that, I kind of just met like my next mentors. Like then I learned emotional alchemy with one of my mentors and breath work. And then so I learned all these modalities and I got my Merkaba activated. And it's just like a few years of just being thrust into, okay, now learn this. Okay, now learn this. Now learn this.
So what do you think as somebody who is, first off, was doing it before you had the language for it? That's what I love about Reiki. To me is like, when I finally took the Reiki class, not only did I finally get to have conversations I was actually interested in, but like way more interested than anything else ever, right? But I also got put around other people who were interested in talking about that and understood it and also it gave me the words to be able to describe things. Like, whereas before, I could talk about something that I would say now is energy. Okay. But
Yeah.
before I could talk about it, and artwork would be the way that it would come through. Like, no, it's not what I'm trying to do here. It's something else, like, because I'm coming up with something that I already see, I already know, then I can translate this as best my skills can allow. But the Reiki class gave me the words that other people could understand, that were not, for me, in my experience, that were not restricted to devil, God, angels, like all this stuff that historically there's a lot of heavy connotation and a lot of frankly, in my opinion, there's a lot of like control. Like a lot of the languages that they use oftentimes with religion can sometimes be based around controlling the masses, right?
Yep.
And that never felt right to me. Like in the whole guilt thing, I was like, okay, I understand what you're saying, but like I don't feel that guilty. So I don't think I fit, I actually said that to my friend of mine, and she was like, no, I don't think it's about that. And she said some beautiful way of describing it. I was like, okay, whatever. But there were other things that just, kind of pushed me away from that. But it's really nice to be able to have language and ability to kind of talk about it, because it's this ethereal thing that feels so hidden and unclear.
Oh yeah. See, like growing up, I grew up in a Mormon town. Like it was
Okay.
extreme. Like they say, like
Were
where I
you
grew up,
Mormon then?
no, my
Okay.
mom's side, like my grandparents and stuff are. But I always felt that religion is man-made.
Oh yeah, totally is.
And
Well,
that's all they
I mean,
are.
some of it's channeled, right? Like you get messages from sages or whatever. Some of that's channeled, but then they put it in the context, and then there's other humans managing it who are not channeling, right?
Yep. And it's man-made. And the fear, all that. Yeah. I never was one for that. I was always the outcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
I prefer my spirituality.
Okay, so let's talk about. I'm gonna let you decide whatever you want to talk about, and but let's stick with the channeling stuff. So I want to ask some general questions, like overarching. We can talk about specific things too, but in the most inclusive way of all the methods of channeling, can you describe what the channeling experience is like, both from the channeler and also from the observer? Does that make sense?
What do you mean from like the observer of like the other beings or a
No, I
client?
mean from another human watching you. Although it
Depends on
might be interesting to do that one as well.
to which to do it from the being's perspective.
Yes, that would be really cool.
So
Can you
I
do
did
that?
a channel yesterday.
Uh-huh.
It's funny because I always do it for work. Like
Mhm.
every program I ever put out, they will bring it to me and they will hound me. They're annoying sometimes. And they're like, you need to create this. And they give me all the information. Here's how much, here's how many people are meant to take it this time. Here's all the information.
Mhm.
Create it. And I do. And I forget to channel for myself. And so yesterday it was like they kept calling me and I was like, okay, like I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna channel. Like I've been so busy, I haven't for a while. And so I sat down with they're the Pleiadian Emerald Council. And from their perspective, it was like when they're coming to me, they're like, look, you're going to it's like a communication. So it's like I'm feeling their energy. And then they're like very usually Pleiadians are pretty calm and easygoing. They flow. So it does depend on the being.
Mhm.
And it does for like an observer. Like if I'm working on somebody, the energy that they receive depends on the being that we're working with.
Okay.
So
Being the energy being.
yeah, like so this was an entire council of beings. Like they
Okay.
were Pleiadian beings.
Mhm.
And so sometimes it's like Goddess Kali or Goddess Isis, or I've had Jesus come through, Saint Germain, Archangel Michael. Like I don't have a specific, like some people are like, oh, I just channel with dragons. I just channel with fairies, or I just channel. I do it all.
Yeah.
They're all like, my team is mostly galactic, but they come in and it was the most incredible experience because they were like, look, your timelines are going really good for these things, but your financial timelines, we need to level up because you have these blocks, these grids of energy. And when I'm doing it, I can see it. And so like you have these grids of energies that you are plugged into that need to be cleared. And then we need to anchor in these new grids or plug you into them so that we can get you up to this timeline that's in the fifth dimension. And so they explain it, and their energy when they're doing it is so calm and peaceful. And honestly, it's just a very supportive experience. And so it's like then it's like I'm going to a healer to get a session done. Like I'm watching it like a video. Like it's like I'm working with somebody physical. And they have pillars, and they had a pillar through me, and then even the timelines they were working on. And I work a lot with past lives. And so they were healing some of my past lives that I hadn't gotten to yet. And they were like, okay, no, these need to go, like they need to be cleared, and sending that energy in. So it's like they're doing so many different things. And when I do a session with somebody, like I will explain it as we go. Okay, we're just working on this, but it's too fast paced for me to actually sit there and be like, okay, now we're going to go into these timelines, and they're doing this and they're sending this energy down, and it looks like this. Like I don't have time for that. Like it's so fast paced that it's like, so from a perspective of an observer, they get the write up of everything that we do. Or
so you write stuff up after a session?
Ones that I used to, yeah, I would just write it all up if I'm channeling, and I will even sit there and do like a trance channel and like combine it with automatic writing where it's like I'm in this channel and I'm like, okay, like, can you type while I'm doing this? So they're sitting there typing and I'm channeling them through, they're speaking through me. And so it's like I can do, because it depends on which layer of trance you go into. So you can do multiple at once. So a lot of this times it's indirect, where it's like I'm not working with a person physically. We've tuned into their guides, which goes down into into them, and then we go through them, because then I don't have all the chaos that's in their energy that I have to read. It's different, because like when I do Reiki, I don't really do Reiki now, but when I would do Reiki, I can feel it all through me. And it's overwhelming, like it's like you're getting told these things, you're getting all this stuff, all this information, it's all coming so fast. Whereas when I channel into someone's team, it's actually like, okay, here's what you need to
measure for you, is it not?
Pardon?
It's a protective measure for you, is it not?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is. It's easier, and I prefer it because they're still doing everything. But then it's like I have that barrier where they're like, okay, look, this is happening. They're doing the work. I'm holding the space. We're there. I do whatever I'm not in charge.
So when you're working with somebody else's team, okay, they're giving you information that you can relay to the person to explain, maybe, okay, here's an area where you're blocked, or, this is something you need to do, whatever. Okay. So my question is, you're saying that they are working on the person who comes into you, their guides are working on the person who came into you. Okay. Yeah. So what are you doing other than channeling information that they're telling you that this person needs to hear? Are you also doing energy work at the same time too?
Oh yeah, it's not usually about what they need to hear. Like if there's like a message in there, but it's all healing.
Yeah.
That's where we focus it. We're doing the healing. If they got energy blocks, like we're going in, we're diving into it, and they'll be like, okay, we need you to focus on this part while we are over here focusing on this. So work on removing this at the same time this needs done. And so it's like working on a team.
Yeah. Okay. So you basically just become part of the team.
Yeah.
So they tell you some information, and through this connection what to do with energy to try and help this person heal. So yeah, you just join the team. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so that's from your perspective. Your perspective as the person channeling, the person receiving, the person who comes into you. What is it? What's the experience like?
They usually actually pass out.
Okay, they usually go to sleep. So actually, Adrienne's class, she said this to me, and I think other people would confer. The going to sleep when you're getting energy work is usually good. What I've been told is that it's your subconscious is kind of shutting you down so that you can receive more healing.
Because, well, you're not at the level that like vibrationally, you're not at that level that you should be. So your physical body can't handle all that energy. So if I'm working on someone that has a really low vibration, instantly they're asleep because it's too much. Whereas if I'm working with people that I've worked with for years, they don't tend to fall asleep because they can handle the energies. They feel it, they're familiar with it, and they're like, yeah, I'm feeling this, it's happening, I'm allowing it to happen, and it just goes.
Okay, so I'm going to be very selfish here, and I don't know who it's going to apply to, but I'm sure it'll apply to somebody. My experience with energy work has been, I'm usually pretty good at like just going there and see what happens, whatever. Doesn't matter. Sometimes I go to sleep, most of the time I don't. But what I find is that for me, I'm noticing not only with deliberate energy work, but like if I'm shifting stuff and not even realizing it, and also as a child, I was really aware of energy shifts. I didn't know what to call it. I would tell my mom, oh, I feel this weird thing. I used to say like, oh, I'd make a weird, like do a weird position or act weird or something for just a second. And somebody would say, what are you doing? And like, oh, there's a bubble. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to anybody. Like, meaning there's a bubble in my head or there's a bubble in this part of me or whatever. But now I have learned that I was just sensing energy shifting, period. It's irrelevant. There's not like good or bad. I don't need to take a Tylenol like my mom said, like it's just this being aware of that. So, but that being said, when I have big shifts, it's not uncommon for me to have a physical response. Like I'll either have to go to the bathroom a lot for no reason, or I don't know how to describe it. Just like weird stuff happens. So what do you say to people who experience things like that? And how do I lessen that?
There's really, okay, so like energy takes a week, 3 days to a week to shift.
Okay.
Fully. Like if you're getting a healing session and you're like, oh I'm exhausted, you got to go with what your body's telling you if you can, and drink a lot of water because it'll help flush, because you're stirring up toxins when you're doing energy work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to flush all those toxins out. So if you're drinking a lot of water and you're being easy on yourself, and I always tell my clients, you're going to either feel really pumped right after and you're going to want to like conquer the world, or you're going to be so exhausted.
Yeah.
You got to go with it. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
And just know, but having that conscious awareness that it takes like a week, then you can at least be, oh, okay. And you can be consciously more gentle on yourself.
Yeah, that's actually really huge. And I think, at least my experience with just normal life was that our societies don't generally encourage us to be particularly kind to ourselves. Like, oh, I'm really tired. Well, stop being lazy, get up and do something, exercise. That'll make you feel better, instead of saying, oh, I'm really tired, I should go to sleep.
Yeah. You need to listen to yourself. Like seriously, I've had my team and my body, like my higher self, be like, okay, you just literally need to sit and color.
Oh,
So I will sit and color a picture because it puts you into that meditative state, that meditative state where they can do whatever it is that they need to do. But the one thing about spirit guides too is they can't help you unless they can leave you signs and stuff, but they can't actually interfere with you unless you ask them to every day. And so when you're like, okay, like you call them in and all of a sudden you feel that nudge, oh, I need to just sleep. That could be them saying, okay, hey, look, you have some upgrades that we need to do. You're asking for this kind of help. You need to do this. So they're gonna give you that nudge, have your higher self give you that nudge so that you listen, but then we don't tend to listen.
yes. The programming is pretty hardcore. The human programming. Okay. So that we've seen it from the receiver, the other human receiver standpoint. We've seen it from your standpoint. I know you started to kind of address, I mean, it was your idea. I didn't come up with this, but what can you say about experiencing this whole process? Let's just call it three entities. There's the higher beings that are helping. There's you, and then there's the receiving person. We'll call it that. So we've done the first two on the bottom. So what would you say for the higher beings? Like, do you know what it's like to experience that?
Yeah, because you can feel their energy when you're channeling with them.
Okay.
And so with Goddess Isis, she's one that I'm really familiar with. Like they come in with this, they each have their own energetic signature. Like, so it's different, but like Goddess Athena, when I used to work with her, when she'd come in, I'd see like lilies and like, the lily pads and stuff. And we would always be sitting on this dock. It was like she set the scene. And we'd always be sitting on this dock with our feet in the water. And it was like this calm, even though she was this warrior goddess, it was always calm when she approached me and like, okay, because she was one that was working with me in the beginning of my channeling journey quite a bit for quite a long time. So when she would approach me, it was like more like a mother. So when she come to me, it was like this mother feeling where I could feel that that's how she was approaching me. I was one of her daughters. Whereas when I work with Isis, she just tells me how it is, and she's blunt and she's straight up about it. And she has given me crap over things lots. And so like when she comes in and she's like, okay, what's going on? Like, it's kind of like that approach. That's how we approach it. So it does depend on the being and their energy signature and the relationship that you build with them.
Okay. So as a channeler, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then let me ask this. Obviously, everybody has different higher beings that help them. So what do you notice about the qualities of the higher beings that come in for somebody as they're coming in as a client and the energy of the client? Like, how are those things connected? What do you see that's similar, that changes as you see different clients? What is it that you see?
The biggest thing that I see is I have had clients that have come there and they're not open. So like my team is very galactic, right? Most people, they're not really open to that. But if I say angels, they're like, oh, I believe in angels. Angels are good. Okay, I believe that. And so for people that are not as open, I tend to actually get more like Archangel Michael, Metatron, Raphael, familiar angels that they can go look up. And then they're like, okay, I like there's that connection. So they're more open to the healing and to the guidance because, oh, this is a being that I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
Versus people that are in the industry where it's like, hey, you just had dragons come through. You just had this council of like, I've worked with all kinds of different beings. So it's like anything. But then I can get more into it where it's like even goddesses, we can get more into it. Versus newbies, it tends to be more angels because the healing is softer, it's gentler.
Why is it softer, do you think?
Because newbies tend to only be able to handle so much. And so they want to kind of build them up. And then it gets a bit more intense if they keep going with it. And then like we'll do more sessions and we can get into deeper, but they tend to need to establish that because when I don't do sessions one-on-one like that anymore. I only do my programs. But when I would have them in sessions, it was like here's the comfort zone. Let's build off that. Let's build this relationship with this person and the being.
Okay. So could you say then the ones that are more advanced or more open, as you would describe, would you say it's a similar situation where you're just kind of meeting them where they are, and then you're growing from there?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the beings that come through, like I have some more advanced people and they can be either more galactic or and they don't have to be a specific, like I can't remember where they were from. I had beings come through from somewhere and it's been a little while, but they tend to just be more open to like dragons, even fairies or like more elemental healings. And so and it can be different. Like one time I could have like an angel come through, the next time it could be a galactic being, and the next time it could be a fairy. So it's more diverse where they get to, because they choose. I don't choose who comes through. The beings choose. They're like, okay, this is what they need. I always just put out, okay, whatever activations, healing, guidance they need, please come and work with me now. And that's who comes through they pick. And so it tends to be a lot more diverse.
Okay. Let's see. My next question is, again, it's going to be selfish. I'm selfish today.
I'm selfish.
All right. I have always struggled with personally, I don't like fiction books. I mean, I read what I had to read in school, but as a child, I could tell you the reason I didn't like them is because I didn't remember their names. And I'm terrible at names. And to me, it doesn't, I know that a lot of people will get offended at that, but to me, it's not about not knowing who the person is, because when I meet somebody, yes, you have a name. Yes, I have a name. In other languages, they say, I am called. And then there's this other thing. Whereas in English, we say, I am, right? Or I am called is similar to my name is, but we don't really associate that usually as English speakers as this label that I have. is this thing, and you can say these sounds and I will respond to you. That's the way I feel about names. Now, I was a teacher and I had to learn like 150 names every 6 months, right? But I really, really, really struggle with that. And so honestly, some of these stories about the Galactic Federation or the people in these constellations or whatever they are, not people, whatever the things are, right? I struggle with that because I feel like it's a story and I'm confused as to how is it different than a human story where people get really they get really invested in whatever the story is. And then that also means they also get invested in those energy congestions, as I would call them. Yeah. And then they kind of find, so like, how is that different? The stories about the galactic, whatever they are, or the dragons, how is it different than the stories that we tell ourselves as humans, I guess is my question.
I find that I'm writing a book with the Galactic Federation right now. Uh-huh. And they come through and they are very clear on who they are because they are very well known. Mm-hmm. And people, because they're so well known, they have to be clear. But mm-hmm. I actually I like having the freedom to just work with whatever being. Tell me your name. Tell me if you're serving the light. Let's do this. I'm not one where I want to know their whole backstory. I don't care. If you're going to do healing, let's do it. That's what we're here for. Yeah. That's how I feel about it. I'm really bad at that because like I know some channelers are like, okay, here's the complete story of these beings that I'm working with, but people need that. And and I've had people actually ask questions like, I need to know where they're from. I need to know exactly their origin. I need to know their names. I need to know all this information.
It's quite common, is it not?
Like, it is not. No, not always.
Okay.
I only get some. But that stresses me out, honestly, because then it's like, okay, now I have to go in and make sure I have a very strong channel to be able to get this information, because sometimes that voice where it's like, oh no, that's not true. You're making it up.
From the client.
From me.
Oh, from you. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's part of you too. Okay. Because they're questioning everything you're saying.
Sometimes, yeah. It's like when it's like a new being and it's like, okay, and then I get this information. Like when I get like the Pleiadians, it's like, okay, I don't know like where their star system is. I don't give a crap, but they're so familiar. So it's just like whatever, they just come in, they do it. But sometimes I'll get someone that's like, no, where exactly are you located? Why do you care? Mm-hmm. Like, why does that matter? And that's how I feel about the name thing. I agree with the name thing. I'm just like,
okay, so let me shift into this then. Okay. So, This helps me to transition into this thing that I have been struggling with even through the course. So the course that I'm taking, he spent quite a bit of time, which I, of course, thought was way too much, but I'm not the teacher. A lot of time on protection, clearing out negative energies or what have you, and whatever they are. Okay. And I understand there's definitely a value to it. I'm not negating that, but I personally have struggled with when people want to know the name of whatever this entity is, or they want to know what it looks like, or where they're from, or what all these details are.
You don't always get that.
I know you don't always get that. But my question is like, it's almost like, being aware that you should not be around a particular person, like, or you should not be in a particular place. Like, do you really need to know why? Is that, like, what benefit does it give you to have a name? Why don't you make up a name is what I'm saying. Like, meaning the person, if they really need a name, why can't they just make up a name? But then there's this, I guess I'm confused about the infiltration or the energies that come that are not in alignment with you, or they're not well intended. Like,
not learning how to not have that properly?
No, not really. Because
straight up, I'm okay with being mean on that one. That's really bad. That is extremely important.
Oh, no, I know it is. It's not that. No, what I'm saying is, okay, so my question is, it's not about protecting yourself or not protecting yourself. I still think that the word protection is a little off in the sense that I would describe it personally as this. Protection implies that there's a threat and a lack of strength from the being that is trying to protect itself, right? I always kind of felt like it was like you, especially when you do Reiki, you really, or any of this stuff, I think you're bringing in the essence of who you are. And the essence of who you are is not this negative stuff. And by bringing this light in, that is who you really are, and strengthening it, what happens is those other energies that are not of the light, they kind of fall away. But that's a very different outlook than I'm setting up protection. Does that make sense?
Okay, so when I begin to channel or I'm teaching, because I have my academy, like that's what I'm working on, all the stuff now to get that out. But the way I set up my academy is very specific because of where I struggled with that exact thing.
Okay.
So the way I've set it up is the first month is like, okay, here are basics that you need to know. Energetic protection, it's a mandatory thing, but we go into vibration, because when you can understand that if you're on a low vibration and you're like, you're not feeling good, you're really down and you're exhausted, you're on a lower vibration. If you're eating McDonald's every day and eating all this stuff that's not good for your body, I'm not saying, hey, I eat stuff too, but so I'm not saying all the time, but like if you're making a consistent diet where you're lowering yourself down constantly, you're in a low vibration. It is what it is. Accept it and learn. You either go up or you're okay with where you're at. And I'm pretty blunt about that, because there's always been in my life, like there's always been this huge, oh, I have a higher vibration than you, and oh, I'm just better because my vibration is higher. And it's become catty. And the second you say that to me, I'm gonna say, oh, your ego's showing.
Your what? Your ego, you said?
Yeah, your ego is showing, because that's all egotistical. So that's telling you, your vibration is quite low. You just want to feel more superior to other people. So when you work with these beings, the way I teach it is a specific process that you go through where you are learning to bring your vibration up. You are learning to channel from your heart. You are learning to, yes, you have to protect yourself, but you also need to connect to the earth to make sure you're grounded, and you need to connect to the divine to make sure you're connected. And you need to I add in breath work into my work, because I'm like, okay, this is how you're going to, if there is anything hanging on, if you have emotions, if you have grids of energy that are bringing you down, so you're at a lower point, because when you're channeling with these beings, you got to bring yourself up. You don't get to channel from where you're at. You got to bring you up so that you're not in the space of lower energies. And if that's where you're at, then that's where I'm saying, okay, you need to do some healing work. You need to check for entities. You need to check to make sure you're in the present. You need to check to make sure you have nobody else's energy attached to you. You need to do all the checks. I have like a list. And so we go through that. Now that you've checked your energy, you're in the present, you've got nothing attached to you. Now you're going to focus on, okay, what are you eating? What are you doing? Are you meditating? Are you doing all these practices to bring you up? Or are you just staying where you're at? So when you begin to channel, you bring yourself up, and that's when everything else falls away. Anything else is irrelevant. Then that being is going to meet you, because you've brought your vibration up. That being is going to meet you and at where you're at. And sometimes it doesn't come through super clear, but I have only ever experienced one time, and I was not in a good space when I went into channel, one time where I had an entity come in and try and interfere. And that was because I was lower, and it's not a common thing. And I've been doing this for years, and I've only had it once. And I've taught people, I've never had anybody in all my work, I've never had them do it, but I'm somebody that deals with the nitty gritty. I'm kind of who they call when the really scary stuff goes bump in the night.
Okay.
So
let me ask you this. So in this course that we took, there was a 5 or 6 weeks. I don't remember how long. They had somebody come in, and I think she's really good. This is the first time I met her. And basically what she does, she clears people's energy. So she clears out these negative, the past life. Sometimes she'll like spout out these past life, like snippets of the stories. Sometimes she'll be speaking, and it's really amazing, because when she does this, it sounds exactly what the energy feels like. But she spouts out these thoughts and these feelings that people are having. So we're in a group setting. She's doing the clearing. And the first time we did this, I met, and I was like, okay, I'm here for this. I'm just, we're just supposed to basically get into a meditative state. Okay, fine, I can do that. And I sat down, and the way I would describe it is it was just ick. It was just like, ugh, like I didn't feel like I could. I mean, I didn't feel comfortable. Kind of like if you're in a classroom or something and you don't want to be there and you're like, I just don't want to be here. Okay. So that's what it felt like. But it got so strong that I was like, ooh, I know this feeling. It's kind of like when I am around somebody and I feel like I don't want to be around them. And then it becomes louder. Like they just keep doing or saying or whatever they're doing. And it just gets louder and louder. And literally it's an urge to get up and leave no matter what the situation is for no reason whatsoever. I just don't want to be here. You get up and go. So that's what the clearing felt like to me. Does that correspond with what, like, where does that go in the spectrum of what you're talking about?
Here's what I tell my clients, because I know exactly what you're experiencing. You had somebody come in with a lower vibration than you and work on you. Now, what happens when that happens is you absorb everything. You're not getting a clearing. You're absorbing their crap. So what I always tell my people, and this is why I'm somebody that I consistently work on myself. I want to have the highest vibration, because if I don't have a high vibration, then I'm not helping anybody.
Yeah.
I want to do my work, then I need to make sure that I keep up on my own stuff. And so I'm constantly looking at myself, but not everybody does that. They have this thing where they think, oh, well, I'm a channeler now, or I'm a Reiki master, so I'm just amazing and I don't have to do anything for myself. I just help other people, and they don't have anybody working on them. And then they're bringing their stuff to all their clients and they're saying, here, let me share with you. Here, let me share with you. Anybody that's lower than them, it's fine. They're going to help them. They're going to take on that stuff as the healer. But then anybody that is higher than them, they're going to give it. They're going to be like, here, let me share. Here's a gift.
So as a healer, are you saying that if we're offering healings, we're doing the healing work with somebody, are you saying that we're taking on their energies?
Yeah. If you're not doing it properly, yes. If you're not properly protecting yourself and you're not using the proper tools, you're not raising your vibration so that none of their stuff can stick to you. And I'm very passionate about this, because I was somebody that when I first started, I would take on everybody's stuff because I felt so passionately for them. And I didn't have boundaries. In this work, you have to have boundaries. But the second you don't have it and you're like, oh, but I just want to help them and it's okay. No, I don't pick up anybody's stuff. And that is a boundary of mine now.
And you feel it's a lot better, because when you don't do that, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't matter if you're trained in this or not, in like a hairdresser. Okay. If you don't do that protective practice, then when you're done, you feel drained. You feel worse. You get sick.
Yes.
Okay.
Even if there's not an equal and energetic exchange. So if you're working on someone and they're like, oh, I can't afford it. Can I just have it? And you begrudgingly do it. The second you go, oh, okay, I'll just do it, whatever. You just gave away all your power. You just trampled on your own boundaries. And now there's not an equal energetic exchange. And so you're not helping them. You're not giving them anything. And now you're drained because you feel like crap because you went against yourself. So there has to be an equal and energetic exchange. My body balancer lady, she always tells me you get nothing for nothing.
Okay.
So there's a lot that goes into it. Where are you at energetically? And you have to be honest with yourself, but you got to raise yourself up, and all that low stuff does fall away. I have to, when I deal with like demonic presences and entities and stuff like that, like I've done house clearings where I have to bring myself down a little bit.
So how do you do that?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Okay.
I just do. Because like when you do the protection, but you learn to feel out the vibration. Okay, this is going to be really heavy. I need to be at a high enough vibration that it's not going to hurt me, but I've been thrown around like some of the stuff I deal with. But then you have like, okay, I'm at a high enough vibration where it doesn't affect me, and a low enough vibration where I can be in the same realm, like on that same field as it, so that I can deal with it. And then I have like energetic tools. Like I have my Merkaba that I use, which is extremely high vibe. So that kind of gives me a huge advantage. Plus I work with the violet fire. Like I have a lot of tools.
Send inquiries, suggestions for new discussion topics, and comments to podcast@happylioncenter.com. That's podcast@happylioncenter.com. If you found this content enjoyable or helpful, please comment, like, share, and download. Donations are appreciated and help us to produce more of similar content. Consider making a contribution at the links in the description box. Your support is greatly appreciated. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the Happy Lion Center and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone or anything. None of the content provided should be considered a substitute for legal, financial, medical, psychiatric advice or as care from a certified professional.